everyone, and welcome to On Sprue Review. My name's Violet Sun, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Abaddon, Warmaster of Chaos, leader of the Black Legion, a single large miniature from Games Workshop for Warhammer 40,000. Let's do as we always do and have a look at the box for this mini first. Now, as you can already see, this is quite a plain box. Although Abaddon himself is very beautifully painted and the little bits of graphics around the box are quite nice. About 2/3 of the front of it is just a dark bluish grey or black tone. Yeah, it's one of those boxes again. Not a fan, would much rather have some more detail, something more interesting. This is quite an old box. Hopefully it'll get replaced with the newer style at some point soon. The back side of the box is far better. Not only do we have a lot more going on, images from all over the miniature, we've also got some sort of flames and purpley nebula kind of looking spacey stuff going on in the background. Even just that little touch of colour makes it look so much more interesting. And as a plus, we've got a little simple paint guide on the kind of main colours that you're going to need if you want to paint Abaddon as he's depicted on the box. So yeah, big box, back side of it is better than the front, which is not really what you want. You kind of want to be displaying the front side of the box, and in this case, I don't think it's the more interesting side. But it does the job of getting the mini to me without losing all the bits, so there's that plus. But let's get on and have a look at sprues. And this is what you get in the box for Abadon the Despoiler. Kind of a two-part big sprue, nice big base, and of course the instructions. Let's take a look at the instructions first. So rather nice instruction booklet, full colour throughout, also quite a nice decent size. It's the same size as the box, so they didn't sort of cheap out. Quite a few pages going in full detail of how to build Abaddon, including quite a few different options. You can build him with and without his cloak, and there's a few different heads. And these instructions, I don't think anyone's going to struggle, even though this is quite a large model. I don't think anyone's going to have any difficulty following these and ending up with a completed model. This model is a grand total of 29 pieces, including his kind of base topper, and yeah, the base on top of that. So 30 parts if you count the base. There are also rules for Abaddon in this. I believe these are the 8th edition rules, so they're not much use anymore, as happens in these boxes. On the very back of the booklet, you get what I think is by far the most comprehensive painting guide we've had so far. I've looked at quite a few boxes now, but this really goes into far more depth, explaining even the different kinds of black, the different black used on the armour compared to his cloak, going into small details like the little burning brazier, how the sort of paints that they've used to get that effect. I think this is really good. It's really nice to see something so in depth for such a detailed model, such a big model as well. There's a lot of area to cover, and to have such a big painting guide is really, really welcome. Although if you are a new collector, this is a lot of paints to be buying, so maybe this is a more intermediate for someone who's, you know, got a few basic squads under their belt and wants a bigger challenge, and definitely knows they want to stay in the hobby and want to spend out however much it is to buy that many paints. With the instructions looked at, let's have a nice detailed look at the parts on this sprue. So let's start having a look at the legs of this model. Abaddon's absolutely huge. His legs are nearly the full height of a firstborn space marine, and yeah, there's plenty of detail on these, even though if you're building him with the cloak, quite a lot of this is sort of not easily seen. There's still a lot of detail on all of the back pieces of his legs and all this extra piping and whatnot. The front sides of these legs are even more detailed. You've got these huge pieces of shin armour with some very distinctive demonic faces and kind of the pointed chaos detailing that's very, very common. It's banded edges and skulls. All the things you expect for a model following the Chaos Gods. These are very nicely done, even though there are a few little bits, like if you see around here, obviously this is on the side of this piece, so there's no rivet on this like there are on the other arrowheads, and there's a little bit of a sort of smearing going on of the detail around this corner, but it's pretty good. I think with a bit of painting that would be fine. I don't think anyone's going to notice it. It's not nearly as bad on the other side. It seems to be just that left side of this shin piece that's got that kind of smeariness to it. And the other one seems to be pretty okay. It's a bit of stretching on this arrowhead, but generally I think very nicely done. Now let's move on to the core torso piece of this model. I think this is one of the pieces that really surprised a lot of people when it's first shown, as it's got a lot of detail that doesn't show on the final model. This kind of undersuit of the armour, the big Terminator plate he's wearing, you never see any of this. It's all completely hidden by the breastplate, and the same with these big pieces on his shoulders that hold up his enormous shoulder pads. All of it's completely obscured. You'd never know it was in there. But the sculptor, whoever it was that did this model, went to the extra effort of putting all that detail in there in case you wanted to do something weird with it. I'm sure you could do Abaddon getting dressed, with his demonic menials putting on his armour, or all sorts of different conversions that wouldn't have been possible, or you'd have to have done this detailing yourself. And now it's just there, should you want to do something different with this model, which I think is a great thing. The backside of the torso isn't as detailed, because this is where his big power packy piece attaches, so they've got to have somewhere to actually join the model together. Now, since I mentioned it, let's have a closer look at the front plate. This is kind of a breastplate with part of the Terminator armour that goes around Abaddon's head, all as one piece. Quite a lot of fine detail, all of these kind of chaosy horns or teeth, depending on quite what you look at them as, spread around. Really nice little bits of detail. And this attachment point, which is for this piece. Now this is just a couple of cables and a demonic skull, but the fact that this has been made separate means that these cables have got much better dimensionality. They actually go round rather than if this had been moulded onto the front, which on a lot of other models it would have been. You'd have, a kind of flat side of the cable that's attached to the front of the chest. And I think this is great. This is a big focal piece of the model. It's right beneath his face. It's a real place that your eye is drawn to. And it's nice to see this being made as a separate piece. Obviously, it's a bit of a fiddly part. You just have to be very careful with it not to break these, but they seem pretty robust. It's just nice to see that extra care being taken to make the details look even better. I'd mentioned his massive shoulder pads a second ago. They are enormous. I mean, big hair, big shoulder pads is a very 40k look. and Abaddon's definitely sporting both. These are enormous, even compared to Terminators. I would say Custodian Terminators, even. This guy's huge. He is truly getting on to the Primarch size. I really like the version of the Eye of Horus they've gone for on this. Really nice extra amounts of detail. I think it will paint up really nicely. The other shoulder pad is equally as huge, although detail-wise, not quite as good in my eyes. I quite like the carved-in 8 points and the little skull. Maybe the skull's a little too little. I would have maybe gone for a slightly bigger skull, but it's okay. Now, something interesting with this model that you don't often get with character models especially, it's 3 separate faces. These are only sort of like half a face, with the back half moulded as part of the torso. But the fact that you get kind of a scowl, an angry grimace, and a version with kind of a rebreather built in, it's really cool. It's very unusual for Games Workshop to include this amount of variety on a character. It's usually, this is what the character looks like. This is the sort of canonical depiction of them. A bit of variety on your Warmaster. Can't go wrong. I did mention big hair. Abaddon's glorious huge top knot is still here. It was a big part of his original model. I think they've maybe toned it down a little bit. I remember the braid being quite a lot longer on the old Abadon Metal Mini, but they've still kept that classic character to this model. Kind of finishing off the core of the torso of this model is this belt and this loincloth piece, which I was a little surprised to see. It's all moulded as one part. I was kind of expecting it to be a piece for the centre and the hip plates to be separate, but nope, it's all moulded as one piece. It doesn't seem to have suffered too badly for it. The only negative being that the hip plates do end up with old line running right down the centre of the spikes. It's going to be a real pain to clean up, but I don't think it's going to be too noticeable if these get a little bit damaged in the cleanup process. Well, I haven't even taken a look at the back of the torso piece. This back armour is really nice. The cables from the front come round and join up. Actually makes sense around the back. Got another armour plate. And these really nice grill slats, instead of just being straight, seem to have kind of like barbs and sharp bits. Even like the exhaust on his armour has pointy bits. It's very thematic, and I really like how it makes it look less neat and standard. You know, normal Space Marine Terminator armor, these slats would all be perfectly straight and neat and tidy, and on here, that chaos in every aspect of it is very cool. Now, Abaddon's weapons are nearly as famous as he is. The Demon's Sword, Drachnaen, a very, very cool piece of 40k lore. I'm not going to go too into it right now, but very nice Demon Sword. Again, enormous. Everything on this mod is absolutely huge. I don't think you could give this sword to any smaller. It's frankly enormous. And the detail on the reverse side is just as nice. All of the leering faces on the demon blade and all these really fine barbed spikes, and even spikes coming out of the wrap on the grip. Really nice piece of sculpting. And of course, his other famous weapon, the Talon of Horus, taken from his Primarch and possibly Grandfather. yeah, this is a really nice version of this weapon. Have one piece that's kind of the ring fingers and palm of the hand. Another piece of it that's the back of the hand and some little skull knuckles. One bolt weapon, second bolt weapon. Both of these have these long trailing linked belts of ammunition. And there's a little separate thumb as well to complete it. Now, one of the biggest optional parts of this model is the cloak. I can see why some people wouldn't want to put it on, so they can see more detail on the back of the model, the back of the legs and the armour. But I think it adds a lot to the silhouette of the model, having this big, jaggedy, pointy, aggressive kind of edge to the silhouette. Really helps emphasise him being a chaos model rather than an imperial model. I do think you might want to keep some, at least this big piece of the cloak separate rather than gluing it onto the model straight away, just so you can more easily paint the back of the legs before going in and attaching this. Might be a little bit more of an advanced technique, but I think worth doing a bit of a sub-assembly. One of the other pieces that really alter his silhouette is this enormous trophy rack. I think you could put this on a dreadnought and it wouldn't look small. Got skulls of several humans, by the looks of things, a gene stealer, and even a Space Marine's helmet with the eyes punched out and slammed onto one of these spikes. Again, great spike sticking up, a very good indicator to show he's a Chaos model, even from a long distance away. Now you also get this chunk of plastic that goes on top of the base that Abaddon's feet fit onto. Quite like this kind of base topper, especially for hero models or character models. This one I'm not super pleased with. A lot of it is just this kind of dimpled plasticky stuff, which it doesn't really look like anything. I know it's meant to be kind of debris and mud and stuff, but yeah, it's not the best piece that I've seen. The dead Space Marines and skulls and stuff, all great, but I would have preferred to have seen like more chunks of actual rubble and things rather than just kind of a mound of sand. It's a bit kind of generic, I think is what I'm trying to say. There are some extra pieces like this piece of fallen Imperial statuary that goes onto the base, and this is kind of a brazier, or the stand for a brazier, and you get like a little flamey top to go on top of to finish the brazier off. All in all, I think this is a fantastic model. Some great detailing, some very interesting choices of putting extra detail in where you wouldn't see it, make it separate that would normally just be moulded onto the model to make them actually look a lot better. It fills up this sprue, I mean, even with this big base top. There's a lot going on this model. Now, what am I going to do with it? Well, now that's the question. I don't have a Black Legion force, but with the Horus Heresy very quickly approaching us, I think I might convert my own version of Horus using this model as the base. Obviously, there's quite a lot that needs changing to make Abaddon look more like Horus, although not its face, as they are supposed to be nearly identical. But obviously I'm going to have to take off the rack, that doesn't look quite right, and swap out a Draconian for a big mace. There's a few other little bits and pieces I'm going to change, like the shoulder pads, to make it look more recognisably as Horus. Yeah, that's my plans for this model. I've seen a lot of conversion on using this as the basis for different Chaos Lords, either people's own creations or other Chaos Lords from the history of Warhammer. If you've already picked up Abadon the Despoiler and have done some kind of crazy conversion, I would love to hear about it in the comments. If you found this review useful, please give the video a like, it really helps. If you'd like to see more reviews, there's a bunch on my channel already, and new ones are posted every Saturday. If you subscribe, you're more likely to see them than if you don't. Thank you very much for watching, and happy hobbying!